1939. A truck rolls off the production line at the Leyland Motors works in Lancashire, England, and into the factory yard. 23 feet long, 7.5 feet wide, painted flat military green. It weighs just over 3 tons unladen. Its engine produces 75 horsepower. A London taxicab of the same year produced more power. The cab at least had doors. The Retriever had none. No windscreen either. The engine block sat exposed between the driver and passenger, radiating raw heat through bare metal casing. Bolted to the rear flatbed was a steel gantry, either hand-cranked or on later variants, powered by its own separate petrol engine capable of lifting over 3 tons. It looked like a builder's lorry. It looked like something you'd find on a construction site, not a battlefield. And yet this truck, multiplied by over 6,500 units, would carry the British Army's entire repair capability across every major theater of the Second World War. To understand why the Retriever existed, you need to understand the crisis Britain faced entering mechanized warfare. By 1939, the British Army was converting from horses to engines at a pace it had never experienced before. Tanks, armored cars, Bren carriers, artillery tractors, and tens of thousands of lorries were flooding into service simultaneously. And every single one of those machines broke down. They threw tracks. They overheated. Enemy shells stopped them cold. And when they stopped moving, someone had to fix them or drag them clear, often under the exact same fire that had knocked them out in the first place. The War Office had already seen this coming. Back in the late 1920s, they created a subsidy scheme paying civilian haulage firms to buy trucks built to military specification. In peacetime, those trucks earned their keep on British roads. In wartime, they could be requisitioned almost overnight. Leyland Motors was an early adopter. Their 6-wheeled Terrier, introduced in 1928, evolved through the 1930s into a militarized forward control chassis. When war came, Leyland's engineers refined it into what became the Retriever. War Office orders arrived almost immediately. The Retriever was built in over 20 different body configurations: general service cargo, breakdown gantry, mobile workshop, generator lorry, bridging truck, searchlight platform, wireless lorry, photographic survey vehicle, mobile darkroom, and yes, even a mobile church. But the variant that changed the war was the breakdown gantry truck. A steel runway ran the full length of the cargo bed, carrying a traveling block that could hoist 3 tons cleanly off the ground. The Coles crane variant could swing a replacement engine directly into a damaged tank's engine bay and have that vehicle combat ready again within hours. Not days, hours. A 4-speed gearbox mated to a 2-speed transfer box gave 8 forward ratios. Hydraulic servo-assisted brakes were genuinely advanced for the period. The truck carried a payload of 3 long tons cross-country, had a range of over 200 miles, and could reach 30 miles per hour on a paved road. It wasn't fast. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked. If this kind of deep dive into the unsung weapons of the Second World War is your kind of content, hit subscribe right now. It's free. It takes 1 second, and it keeps this channel alive. Drop a comment below and tell us where in the world are you watching from. We love seeing where our community comes from. After the Second Battle of El Alamein in late 1942, REME recovery teams spread across the battlefield with their Retrievers. The numbers are staggering. REME recovered over 1,300 Allied tanks from the Alamein battlefield. More than 1,100 of those were repaired and returned to combat. Every single one of Rommel's roughly 480 tank losses was permanent because he was retreating and abandoning his wrecks. The British held the ground. They recovered their casualties. And the gap between those two facts was one of the single greatest force multipliers of the entire war. Montgomery himself told his REME craftsmen after the battle, "They keep the punch in the Army's fist." That quote sits today at the entrance to the REME Museum at Leyland. The system proved itself again in the summer of 1944, under far more brutal conditions. Operation Goodwood, July 1944. Reports at the time claimed 400 British tanks destroyed in just 3 days of fighting south of Cannes. The actual number of permanent write-offs? Closer to 260. The remaining 140 tanks were recovered, repaired, and returned to service, many within 48 hours. That was the Retriever. That was REME. Working through the night. In the mud. Under fire. On paper, the Retriever was outclassed by nearly everything around it. The Scammell Pioneer had a heavier winch. The AEC Matador was more powerful off-road. American Ward LaFrance wreckers could lift over 20 tons. But the British Army didn't need 6,500 heavy wreckers. It needed 6,500 adaptable trucks that could carry cranes, lathes, welding kits, spare engines, and mobile workshops anywhere and keep them there. The Scammell Pioneer, for all its superiority, was built in fewer than 2,000 units. The Retriever outnumbered it more than 3 to 1. The Retriever wasn't fast. It wasn't armored. It wasn't famous. It dragged burning tanks from minefields under direct fire. It swapped engines in the North African desert. It crossed into Normandy days after D-Day and immediately got to work. It kept the punch in the Army's fist. And it did it without anyone ever noticing. If you made it this far, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. Where in the world are you watching from?